meeting of the Christiansburg Town Council to order. We will take a moment of reflection, followed by the pledge. Thank you. Thank you. If you join me in the pledge, I'm going to ask Councilman Henry Showalter, Vice Mayor Henry Showalter, to lead us.
That's better.
Thank you.
I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Are there any adjustments to the agenda? Hearing none, we'll move on. We have no public hearings scheduled for tonight. Our next item up is the consent agenda, which is the approval of the minutes of July 26th. Schedule a public hearing for September 27th, 2022 to consider the request of Marjorie Ann Rudy, property owner, and RWW34 LLC, contract purchaser, to rezone the property located at 1200 Buffalo Drive Northwest, tax parcel 566-A-84. Parcel ID is 111028 from A Agriculture District A and B3 General Business District to R3 Multifamily Residential District with proffers in order to allow 49 townhouse units. The property is designated as residential in the future land use map of the 2013 Christiansburg Comprehensive Plan. A contract to purchase 4 police vehicles from Sheehy Ford in the amount of $154,180, and a contract to purchase a replacement generator from Carter Machinery for $135,621.52.
Mayor Barber, could I get those separated since I wasn't at the last meeting and we vote on the approval of minutes separate from agendas B, C, and D?
Certainly.
Second.
So I'll make a motion to approve consent agenda B, C, and D.
I will second that.
Get a motion and a second. Any discussion? Madam Clerk?
Councilman Bishop.
Aye.
Councilwoman Hicks.
Aye.
Councilwoman Hockett.
Aye.
Councilman Jenkins.
Aye.
Councilman Showalter.
Aye.
Councilman Wilson.
Aye.
That is 6-0. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes of the July 26, 2022 meeting?
I make a motion that we approve the minutes of the July 26, 2022 meeting.
Got a motion and a second. Any discussions? Madam Clerk?
Councilman Bishop.
Aye.
Councilwoman Hicks.
Aye.
Councilwoman Hockett.
Aye.
Councilman Jenkins.
Aye.
Councilman Showalter.
Abstain.
Councilman Wilson.
Aye.
Okay, that is 5, 0, 0, and 1. Introductions and presentations. We have Planning Director Benjamin Tripp to present on the Planning Department. Ben, are you going to operate it from over there, or are you going to come up here?
No, sir, I'm going to come over.
Incidentally, if you have noticed, Assistant Town Manager Andrew Waring is filling in. Mr. Wingfield is under the weather this week. Welcome aboard.
Thank you.
To the big table.
Well, good evening. I thank you for having me here, Mayor, members of council. As you know, my name is Benjamin Tripp. I'm the director of the Planning Department. It's my pleasure to tell you a little bit about what we do tonight and kind of where we're going from here. So, the department has 3 full-time members and 1 part-time member. There's myself, Jude Cochran, our planner 2, Derry Jenkins, who is a part-time planning and zoning assistant, and Jillian Layton, our administrative assistant. And you can see how the duties of the position sort of break down there. We all work together very well, and it's a really good team. So how does planning fit into Christiansburg, into that constellation of departments that we are? We are part of EPI, Engineering, Planning, Inspections. We're the P in that. And this, along with finance, is sort of the first floor here of Town Hall, right? Engineering and inspections differ somewhat from us, although we all work very closely together and work is kind of handed off from one to the other. Engineering feels that more technical know-how, plan review, design and construction, along with the regulatory oversight of things like stormwater. Inspections deals with the building code and kind of everything that happens in your buildings, along with enforcement of the building code and neighborhood services. And planning's kind of in the middle there. We deal with the plan development, things like the comprehensive plan. We deal with zoning and code enforcement, as well as compliance with the code and with subdivisions. So there are really two core functions to the department, and they're different sides of the same coin, right? On the one side is planning, and planning answers the question, what is our vision for Christiansburg? On the other side of that coin is zoning, and that answers, well, okay, so we have that vision, how are we going to make it happen on the ground? How do we implement that vision? The major components of the planning part are we conduct the comprehensive plan, other types of plans. Sometimes they're area plans, neighborhood plans. We have plans for UDAs. We do a process called visioning, where we work with citizens and other groups of stakeholders to really kind of create that vision, which forms the groundwork for the plan. We also work with our partners in other localities and with the regional commission on regional plans, and we generally just facilitate discussion, right? We also conduct all those public hearings like the one you guys just set. Those are all legally required for things like CUPs, rezonings, and we manage all of those through the process. So we deal with writing those ads and the little blurbs that are on the agendas, as well as working with the developer or the property owner, the citizen, to kind of explain everything to them and hold their hand as we go through that process. That part's really important. On the zoning side of the coin, we make sure that everything gets built, meets the standards that the town has, that it all happens the way it's supposed to. Some of that is done through code enforcement. But we also try to keep those ordinances and rules up to date. You know, I don't know how many of you have cracked open the zoning ordinance lately, but it's, you know, it's like that thick. I mean, there's a lot in there. And from time to time, something new comes along, like a microbrewery or some amazing business we've never even heard of. And we have to figure out how that fits in there and how we keep it up to date. And we try to right-size that regulatory framework. And that's something that's really important to me and kind of near and dear to my heart, because we have all these rules and they have to work for everybody involved. We need to make sure that they're good for our citizens, that they're good for business and developers, but that they're also accomplishing our goals that we as staff and you guys have set. So, what is planning? Well, plans provide vision and direction, like we said before, to a community about who they are, what they want to be. Planning is thinking ahead, as a colleague of mine said. And planners are facilitators. We help make decisions. Good planning requires us to think about and prepares us for the future. And I always say, you know, it's really kind of simple planning. You find out what you have and you decide what you want, and then you sort of figure out how to get from one to the next. Public input, big part of planning, right? I mentioned all of those public hearings that are required by the Code of Virginia. You can see the reference there. They're held for certain land use items. We hold 2 public hearings for each land use item, one at the Planning Commission and then one here at Town Council. So in the last fiscal year, we had 13 applications for land use changes. We had 3 rezonings and 10 conditional use permits. From that, there were 26 public hearings. There were opportunities for citizens to come and talk about it, to be involved in that process, for developers and other owners to state their case, and for you guys and Planning Commission to ask questions and find out more about it. The process that we have here in Christiansburg works well in that, because of the time involved and the way we have the public hearings and then we make decisions, it allows the application to improve over time. And I've watched that happen several times, and so it gets a little better, I think, as we move along. And there were 52 meetings that were scheduled that were part of that, whether those are the public hearings themselves or whether those were the times that you were scheduled to vote. So, flipping the coin to zoning. What is zoning? Zoning is a set of rules that implement that vision from the plans, typically through a zoning ordinance. And here's some excerpts from our zoning ordinance. The ordinance regulates the use of land, what activities can be done where and how, and what form and shape does the built environment take. So you can see, if this thing works, you can see here, these are definitions, but over here, this is single family residential, R1. Here's our intent. What are we trying to do? And then we go into the specific uses that are allowed and permitted in that district before it starts to talk about things like frontages and, setbacks. So it's a framework for the Christiansburg that we want to have. And the planning department ensures that all of the new development, everything that gets built in the town, meets those standards. We review all the plans. We look at all the applications. We even go out in the field and measure things and make sure that they're right. Count the number of trees, the number of parking spaces. And we make sure that the uses themselves, the activity that's happening there, is compliant with the existing codes and regulations. So it's kind of like, is this activity allowed to occur here? And we do that through things like business occupancy applications, the zoning verifications, and occasionally through enforcement in the form of zoning violations when we find a problem. So here are metrics for that side of the coin for zoning. You can see we had 82 business occupancy applications, which we review. Basically says, is this business allowed in this location? We had 201 building permits that we reviewed. These are things like decks, sheds. 132 final inspections where we went out and visited it to make sure that it was done the way they said. 50 home occupations. Those are home-based businesses that bring value to our citizens. 29 homestays. Those are Airbnbs and the like. 147 setback inspections. Is the building or the property set back the way it's supposed to be from the street? We looked at 97 sign permits. 120 site plans. That doesn't include the re-reviewing of those. 9 urban agriculture permits, which are mostly chickens. And we also had 33 zoning verifications where a business, or usually as part of a refinancing or something like that, needs to make sure that they're allowed to be there. And 10 zoning violations. Those last 2 require a fair amount of research. So just briefly here, let me talk to you a little bit about some upcoming projects that we have. We are going to begin the process to update the comprehensive plan. It was last looked at in 2018, so it's time to get moving on that. And the Planning Commission has formed a subcommittee that will be meeting in the middle of this month to sort of figure out how they want to go about doing that. We are reorganizing the zoning ordinance, and you will see that, I hope, sometime this fall. The current ordinance that we have is old and has been added to over and over time, and reorganizing it will make it clearer and simpler for everybody involved. All our citizens will be able to look at it and see clearly what the rules are, what's allowed where. It'll be easier for the developers, but I do want to emphasize it is a reorganization. It changes nothing substantially. The ordinance just kind of moves around and makes it clearer, but it doesn't change any setbacks, it doesn't change the uses, that sort of thing. It's the same ordinance. It's just made easier to use. And along that same line, we're doing continued improvements to our processes. Things like the forms that we have, the intake, the way we process and move all of those applications through the department. We want it to be more business friendly and easier for our citizens to understand. So that's it in a nutshell. I really appreciate the opportunity to speak with you and talk to you about the department and what we do. I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have.
You deal in land use issues.
Yes, sir, essentially.
How come it has taken this long to start the comprehensive plan, again, the revision to the last one? Because I know we had talked about it back in several years ago.
So the comprehensive plan is typically updated every 5 years or so. That process begins. The original date on the plan is 2013, but it was looked at most recently in 18. So you're about due for that. I think if your question is why has it taken so long, or the amount of time since I came to the town, the answer to that question is it's just taken us a little bit of time to get organized.
And then I suspect that from now on, I heard that you guys are gonna start with that, but as far as the planning commission, they will continuously work on the different things that before they come to town council, right?
The different things, I'm sorry.
As far as like zoning adjustment of land usage and things like that.
Yes. All the normal items that go through planning commission will continue to do that. Yes, ma'am.
All right, thank you.
It's about as clear as it's ever been explained to me in 20-some years, Ben. Thank you.
I tried to move it along. I'm the only thing on the
Any other comments or
agenda.
questions? Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
It's our citizen portion, citizen comments portion, where citizens are free to come forward and comment on issues within the town. You have 3 minutes, name and address, and limit your comments to the chair. Anyone here to address?
I'm Ernie Wade. I chair the Kiwanis Wilderness Trail Festival, and I'm here to speak to the one item on the agenda, D, under 8, special events for downtown threshold. So, Mr. Mayor, members of council, staff, and guests, I'd like to thank you for allowing me to address the item on the agenda. I'm going to give you a little bit of history of the Kiwanis Club to start off with. Or not the Kiwanis Club, the Wilderness Trail Festival. In 1973, some 49 years ago, a group of Christiansburg citizens founded the Wilderness Trail Festival, whose purpose was to provide a downtown event and give local crafters a market for their goods. As far as we can determine, it has taken place in our town every year except 2018, when we had to cancel the day of the event because of a hurricane, and in 2020 because of COVID. The citizens that started this event ran it for the first several years. Then it was taken over by the Christiansburg Chamber of Commerce, and they ran it until the merger of the Christiansburg and Blacksburg Chamber of Commerce. After the merger, excuse me, after the merger, the festival was not high on the priority of the new chamber. Due to increased vendor fees and lack of attention, the festival began to flounder, and the Consolidated Chamber decided to discontinue the use of the chamber, or the event. In 2009, they publicly announced they would like to find a new home for the chamber. The Kiwanis Club of Christiansburg saw this as an opportunity to turn this into a major fundraiser, grow the event, and to make a major attraction for downtown Christiansburg. Our club was selected to take the chamber over. The first thing we did was to reduce the hiked up vendor fees to get the vendors back, and that worked. The rest fixed for itself, and the festival was rebuilt, and we have grown to cover all of Main Street from Pepper Street to Dunkley Street. This year, we submitted our grant for an application on January 28th and met with the grant committee shortly thereafter, and the cost of the town support never came up. On July 25th, I was told by our town manager there might be an issue. He mentioned that the preliminary numbers were north of $12,000, and the grant would only pay for $8,000.
You got about 30 seconds, Ernie.
Okay. You believe my party.
I'm sorry.
Well, I'll place a copy of the sponsorship brochure in front of your desk there, so that will tell you what we do with the money. But our Kiwanis Club requests that the town raise the amount of the grant, which will allow our club and others to continue with events in downtown. In closing, I'd like to thank the town for all the support over the past 49 years. Your continued support is really needed to ensure the town's largest event continues to take place in downtown Christiansburg. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else to address council? Hearing no one, I'll close the public comments. We move on to committee reports, and I think the first one may be street committee.
All right. This is an issue for information purposes only tonight. A request came to the street committee for what they're going to call a memorial sign. The requester first made the request through the VDOT, and of course the property is on out the town's right of way, which is on South Franklin Street. So that was turned over to the town to look into. We, as the street committee, had several questions about policies. Of course, we don't have a policy that reflects this. So we, once again, as the street committee, asked Mr. Warren and others to come put together a policy for a memorial sign. That way we can say yes, A, B, C, and D, sending, approving this tonight, and then next week, 2 weeks from there, come up with a policy. It's kind of like putting, the horse before the buggy, whatever. So once again, this request was made through VDOT, and now it's in our hands because it's on South Franklin Street. So once again, tonight is for information purposes only, and hopefully within 2 weeks, we should have a policy to bring back to the committee to vote on, and then we'll vote on the sign. But right now, the street committee is really in favor of this type of recommendation, but we're not making a recommendation tonight, if that makes sense. All right, have any questions? No, that's all I have, Mayor.
Thank you. Central business, do you have anything tonight?
Yeah, we do.
Do you want to start?
Yeah.
You want me to start? Or you want to start? So the central business met recently, and among other topics, the facade grant was a big topic of discussion in evaluating what the criteria was going to be effective this year moving forward, what changes we were going to make based on what we had previously to what we have now. So what you see in front of you here is what the committee developed at the Central Business Committee level to basically make this effective now moving forward. And as you can see, one of the things that was struck from the mission statement that was previously in place was property owners. We did take that out so that we could put the emphasis strictly on business owners, that being the folks who are paying taxes to be eligible for the facade grant moving forward. So as you can see, that got distilled further down into things that we would and wouldn't allow. And gun stores, adult businesses, and nonprofits basically fell into that category. We still did keep with the districts that we had in place, being downtown and Cambria this year. We're looking at how we can maybe perhaps expand that in years going forward, but that is still downtown and Cambria. But this is how we kind of came to a new criteria for the current and future rounds as it relates to the facade grant. And so we wanted to bring that to the the town council's attention here. We also have some folks that are on that selection committee that are here tonight that would be appointed tonight if all goes well. And Johanna and I would sit together on that committee. anything else to add on
Just
that?
to clarify, the museum, the withdraw their application, therefore
Correct.
Casey will be joining me in the central business,
Right.
meetings for those decisions. And obviously, we're not going to make the vote on that, we're gonna bring the recommendation to town council for approval. And, obviously, we're gonna be meeting with some of these great, wonderful people that are willing to meet with us, so, thank you, Rita, and everybody else that came today. As
Can
part
you
of that.
acknowledge those people so we'll know who they are?
Yeah, so we have Rita Irwin here. I don't think Liz Dixon made
She's
it here.
not.
And
We
then
have-
Jason Poff.
I think only Rita
And then
and Lauren Trice are
Lauren
the two that are here
Trice.
today.
Mr. Paul was not able to make it this evening. He had a
He
prior
was
obligation.
Served on various committees, but he
Yeah.
won't come back to that.
He did say that he would be happy to come at a future meeting if appointed.
Okay.
So, and another thing that came out of the central meeting, obviously, we're talking about, we do want to put a limitation in there of 1 year. And, you know, from the time that we give the grants out for people to, you know, get the work done and everything else, meet all the payments and stuff. I just think that that's fair for everybody and, you know, and so, and any money that is not used during that year will be sent back to the budget, given back to the budget, so.
Okay.
I'm more than sure Valerie would like that.
I guess the question I have is, I realize that the grant application process is one thing, but the people that are selected for the grant, if I'm not mistaken, Ben, there is some other work that they have to present or has to be done before we ever talked about giving them the money. Is that it? I guess my question is, is it a year from the date of the approval of the application or a date of the approval of the project that they want to do?
I would say it would be the approval of the project
Yeah,
that they would want to do.
Okay, because I know some, you got artwork and you got colors and it shouldn't take a few months.
Yeah.
That's all the question I
I
had. I
just
think
think
it's very
that
reasonable.
it's better to have a time frame, you know?
Yeah.
And I think 1 year is more than enough, and if you haven't spent it, I mean.
Right.
and
Use
the
it or lose it.
reality is-
Yeah.
Use it or lose
Yeah,
it.
and I mean, there is time frames with everything else, your taxes and everything else, so.
And as in years past, it's you know, they do the work and then they show the proof of the receipts and the work and then it's a reambrsment process
Okay.
that will go
But
through
it
for
shouldn't
approval.
take longer than 1 year, and that's, you know, that's the thing. I think it makes it easier. And like we were discussing before, you know, if there is any other criteria you guys would like to add to this, I'm open to just suggestions, and I'm more than sure Casey would like to hear that from you guys too as well.
I just have a question. Why do you have exclusions of for-profit businesses? If the town issues them on a permit to operate in the town, as a for-profit business, why would you exclude them?
They're not.
They are. Adult businesses and gun stores are excluded.
So that was based on, the three items that are listed there was based on extensive research in other localities. And
That they have done
it
that in
seemed-
other places.
seemed to be the industry standard was to bar those businesses from applying to facade grants. Many other towns and cities had it set up in a very similar way.
And I do think that even with the downtown district, wasn't there something that you say, Andrew, that we have ordinance where
The
it will
zoning
not
for
even
it?
be
Correct.
allowed?
The zoning is such that it would not prohibit adult businesses in most areas of town, really.
Would not prohibit or would prohibit?
Would prohibit, excuse me,
Thank
thank you, would prohibit businesses within most areas of town. It is very limited
Franchise.
to our industrial district, to be
So-
honest. And then there are separation requirements
So
from
you don't even
churches
need
and
that as
schools.
an exclusion. If you can't build a business in that part of where you're giving the money, you don't need it as an exclusion, because it just looks discriminatory to me.
So these are the recommendations. I don't think we want to kick those
It
around
doesn't have
too.
that as their mission statement, I think, and it just helps. If I was someone that was selling a product or whatever, I would really like to know, you know, if I have a chance. And that's just personally me.
I guess to see Tim's point, if you can get a business license in the town of Christiansburg, even if it's just one little nook of Christiansburg, shouldn't you have a right to apply for this grant?
Well, under this current assessment, it's only downtown in Cambria, and the zoning bars gun stores and adult businesses in downtown in Cambria. So to Tim's point, we could just take out those words,
Yeah,
but it still bars those businesses from applying either
but
way.
that's on zoning.
What's that?
That's on zoning, but when, I know you guys are looking to expand, right?
Yeah.
Eventually, yeah.
So
Yeah.
if you're looking to expand, this would piggyback right with it.
It would. I mean, I think once right now we're talking about just those historic districts. When we get into other commercial districts, I think then it does require a new evaluation at that point. But for the current year, fiscal year, this would still satisfy those requirements.
Yeah, but can't we just put not eligible, anybody who's not in the Cambria downtown or Christiansburg downtown
I
district?
think if we do that, then it will send, we are doing it by zones right now, and right now, this year, and the last years, we have done it in the downtown areas. Like Casey was talking about, we are looking into expand it for next year and hopefully the following years. So maybe even the main corridors of Christiansburg will have the opportunity to apply. Right now, like I said, like Casey was saying, we use a lot of this stuff from other facade grants that have been done in other places, and we're just using that. But
I agree.
we do like hearing from you guys.
Okay,
and-
I agree with Tim. I think if they can apply for a license, then they should be, regardless, even if I like the industry or not, or business, they should be able to apply for a facade grant.
Well, I think the point stands though. They wouldn't be eligible just based on location.
So why don't we just
So
take that
We
out?
can
we could
close
just
it.
take
Yeah,
we can just take that whole line out.
Because I had a
Well,
question
not the
concerning
whole line.
nonprofits.
We'll keep the nonprofits there.
Well, I have a question about nonprofits. Why are we not gonna give them money? I understand they apply for the community grant. Now, if they apply for the community grant, should they get both? Probably not. But you have some nonprofits that don't apply for community grants.
Right.
So why are they been
The-
taken out?
The desire of the committee was to only make it eligible for
Taxpaying base.
businesses that pay back taxes, which nonprofits don't.
This was created, the facade grant was created from the beginning to help businesses and businesses downtown area and Cambria area. And there was, and that's literally what it's been in other places. In a lot of the other places, it doesn't say in there that it will be for nonprofits. Everywhere in there, it excludes nonprofits. So if other places are doing that, we have a community support grant system that we do give out, and they have the ability to do that every year to apply for this grants.
It sounds like that might be something to consider for the mission statement, just if the purpose, or if there's a purpose statement, I'm not sure, if there's like a purpose statement that says the purpose of the facade grant is to help those for-profit businesses that pay taxes into the town to update, revitalize downtown, et cetera, maybe just that, it sounds like that's not just an exclusion, but maybe part of the mission statement is to take tax revenue and pour it back into the businesses that are paying taxes to help them with their facade. So just something to
We could
consider.
be clearer about that, and that's why we struck the word property,
Yeah.
because property owners
Mhm.
can be nonprofits.
Right.
So
Makes
within the
sense.
statement, it says business owners, because I think if you put taxpayers in there, we're all taxpayers. I own houses too, so I am a taxpayer.
Right, I don't mean saying taxpayers, but if you feel like it's not clear enough to exclude nonprofits, but that's part of the mission or the purpose of the facade grant, I'm not sure what the right wording is, but a consideration of adding something that describes that as part of the purpose in the mission statement might be helpful.
Yeah.
I mean,
Versus
we
just
can
excluding
definitely look
nonprofit.
into additional wording. I mean, there were, I think one of the things that, we can talk about the mission statement and all the things that, there's a lot that comes with it. So I think I don't wanna make it really long, maybe, but we can add to the application and everything else. I wasn't sure that those words can be added to even the process.
During this process, did you ask assistance from the planning director?
Are you asking us?
Yes. Did
Yeah,
you?
we have Benjamin there, we have Andrew Warren in there.
Okay, I mean, that's kind of what he told us he can do. And he has done the same program in Salem, I believe.
Yeah, and we talked for a long time the other day. This was literally the whole meeting, almost.
So do I have a feeling that possibly this needs to go back to the drawing board before we formally approve it?
I think so, and we brought it here to get council's reactions.
Okay, well,
Not to come away today.
Well, and I think it's a little bit of kind of showing the people that are gonna be part of the, I guess, making the decision part of this, kind of give them a feeling of what town council is thinking about this, because I think it's really good. For me, it would be good to hear this information, because we're obviously going to be making the decision here, but it's really nice to tell them, hey, this is what we're expecting from you. So it's really nice that some of the members are here, so they're listening to you guys and saying, hey, I do agree with this, I don't agree with that, They're basically going to be looking at the applications, you guys are going to be voting on them. So I just we really thought it was important to bring this out today, just mostly for them too, and to hear what you guys had to say about it.
And I don't think this in any way would prohibit our appointing these people to the committee.
It shouldn't. You're right.
Oh, no,
Not
it
whatsoever.
Right.
So
Correct.
I have, go ahead, Sam.
Question. So if I, let's say hypothetically, if I own a building downtown and I lease to a nonprofit, can I still apply for the grant?
If you're the property owner, is that right?
That's my business, is leasing my property to this nonprofit.
Is to fix the buildings themselves.
Well, that's what the facade grant's for.
And that's what, yeah, I understand, but a nonprofit, for example,
But I'm not a nonprofit. I own the building and my business is for profit, and I lease to a nonprofit. Can I apply for this grant?
I guess you can find out if the nonprofit can apply for a grant
Why
through the
can't I?
community support.
So you're saying,
I pay taxes here in
if-
Christiansburg.
if you're a nonprofit in Old Town Mall.
No. I own
Right,
the building.
Right, and a
I lease
nonprofit,
to a nonprofit.
okay.
He's talking, for
I'm the
example,
owner.
somebody that rents.
That's my
from
business.
the museum
Right.
or
So
something.
if
No,
under that
I own the
scenario,
property.
the grant would be issued to use, which would be up to you to match the
Can I
funds
apply?
and spend the monies the way it's designed.
I think
If
if
you're a
the
leasing
applicant is
company.
paying back pays taxes, then I think that's what makes them eligible to apply as the applicant.
Which is why I think it belongs in that purpose statement. Not because I want to make it more wordy, but just because when I saw nonprofit struck out, I had all similar questions to what were asked. But then when you explained it, that made a lot of sense to me. So
Right.
it seems like that might be an anchor point for the purpose of deciding who can apply for it.
Right, so I'm basically saying you're a tax-paying organization, you're an eligible applicant, to make that clear, I think.
That's a good question, Henry.
Yeah.
If you own a rent property in downtown in
But then you're a leasing
Right.
company, right?
Hmm?
Then you're a leasing company, right? You're kind of a
Well, I
leasing
hope
company,
if I'm a property owner, I hope
and
I
you're yeah.
Hopefully,
set something up.
I don't know,
I
I
don't know if I
think
have
one
a
of the
vision.
things that I look into when you look at this facade grants, it's not, almost $5,000 is a lot of money. $10,000 to fix the outside of your building is a lot of money. To me, it's a lot of money. I have 4 buildings downtown, I should be applying, I'm not applying because I'm in council. But the reality is that if our theory is to make the downtown look pretty, because this is what it really is, it's trying to dress up the downtown area this year. Maybe next year we'll go to Radford Road, Roanoke Road, or down by the mall. They're all taxpayers. But I do think that the thing behind all this is like fix these buildings that are falling apart. And if you rent from, like a nonprofit or whatever. I think it's the nonprofits, because I think you're gonna be touching a lot of subjects, and maybe that's why the nonprofits are in most of these applications in other places. Because it may be, I don't know, a religious entity, it may be a whole bunch of other stuff, I don't know.
Well, it's been around for a while, so if we keep tweaking it, we'll get there.
Yeah.
And I think
And
it has
we'll-
done a good job. You know, we have had the electrical supply, we had the general store, you know, barber shop, many other businesses, iron brewing and everything else that have taken advantage of this, which is great. It has made our downtown look really beautiful in Cambridge.
So I think the point is, you know, we can go back and refine this just a little bit, to Henry and Tanya's point about making it clear this is, the eligibility lies within tax-paying organizations and businesses. And then if we need to bring that back one more time, we can certainly do that for final approval, but it still doesn't bar the individuals that are here tonight, obviously, for that appointment.
And there's going to be part of it that if you apply for, let's say, our community grant, you can't apply for this. Is that going to be part of the language in there? You can't double dip, meaning apply for our annual community grant gift.
We can put that in there, I actually like that.
And that could
you
also,
know
that could
what,
also be
and
part of the
another
discussion
one-
at your work session, I'm sorry, at the August 15th work session. That could be part of the discussion as well.
And another thing that I wanted to have in there too, which is, it wasn't in there, but we had a talk about this the other day. You know, there's restrictions on how many times you can apply in other places. Why don't we have that too? You know, once every 10 years is what most other places have. We should have something similar.
It
You're
shouldn't,
talking about the community grant now,
it
right?
shouldn't matter
No,
because
I'm talking about this.
This is just for us.
But Henry,
Right.
it shouldn't matter, because we don't have tax-paying organizations that apply for community support. We don't have
Correct.
businesses that apply for
Correct.
community support, so you would never have a double dip,
Gotcha.
Okay,
All right.
Wait,
so.
okay.
say that again?
And then the
I
selection
lost you
committee.
guys.
What I said was it shouldn't matter because only nonprofits apply for community support. You don't have,
That's a
you don't have a
requirement,
business
yeah.
applying for community support, so there should be no need to double dip.
Okay, very good. So you got, to be clear,
Yes.
is it possible, I know that we have our work session on this, the 15th. Is it possible to get that draft back, because we're gonna be talking about
Right.
this and the community support, I believe.
Yes.
Is that possible for
Yeah.
another run-through?
Yeah.
And I will charge you all with that. The recommendation for the 4 approvals to this committee, do you wanna put that in the form of a motion?
Yeah,
Can if you would give the names?
I would like to make a motion for Rita Irwin, Liz Dixon, Lauren Trice, and Jason Pop be appointed to the decision-making for the
Okay.
grants.
Is that Lauren Price or Tice or how?
Trice.
Is last name is spelled Trice, Trice.
Okay, very good.
I'm sorry if I,
Right. I'll second that.
Okay, got a motion and a second for those approvals. Any discussion?
thank you for being here today.
Yeah.
Madam
And thanks for
Clerk?
participating.
I would hope that within the near future, Liz and Jason can come just so we see
Oh, I'm
them.
sure they will.
Okay.
It was short notice too, so
Okay.
you know,
Madam Clerk, you wanna,
Yes, sir. Councilman Bishop, Councilwoman Hicks,
I,
Councilwoman Hockett,
Aye.
Councilman Jenkins,
Aye.
Councilman Showalter,
Aye.
Councilman Wilson,
Aye.
that is 6-0. Ladies that are present, welcome aboard. Thank you.
Yes.
So we got central business, we got TARC committee. Any other committee reports for tonight? Very good.
oh, I just wanted to say something. The NRV Agency on Aging, it was looking for, goodness, what is that called? Somebody to help and, well, it's not volunteering, but I will say it's volunteering. They'll still get, money for, reimbursement for the, or for their driving and stuff, but, and for the meeting time. I'll have to find out what the amount is. It's not a lot, I'm sure.
Okay.
But it's for the Agency on Aging Advisory Council members. So, they're looking for a town of Christiansburg resident to apply. And if anybody's interested in that, I can give the information to Randy Winfield, or you guys can send me an email, and, or I can send the information to Tina King, the lady that runs the organization. But I think it's great to have participation from the community. The only thing is that you do have to be 60 plus. So if you're 60 plus, you're welcome to apply.
Well, Sam? Is this a volunteer to help, like, drive and that?
Well, so
Or are they
it's
looking
like,
for
no, it's
cash?
really to help making decisions. It's only like 2 to 4 meetings a year. I know that they haven't met much, but
Okay.
it's just trying to come up with great things to do in the community, is to revise the programs that we're doing, and just to bring input from Christiansburg. Obviously, the NRV Agency on Aging, there are many other towns involved in this too,
Okay.
and everybody has representatives there.
If you can get us more information on that, I mean, I know it was a verbal request, is there something that you can send to us we can look at?
Yeah, I can send you an email. I actually have the email from her.
That'd be
so.
fine, I think that would work out. All right, any other committee reports? Hearing none, discussion and action by mayor and council, amendment of section 6-1, chapter 6, alcoholic beverages of the town of Christiansburg Town Code in regards to the provisions for playing pool where alcoholic beverages are sold and dispensed. Public hearing was held on July the 26th. We have a description in the back that was prepared by Randy about this thing. And one of the statements that we had a public hearing, there was one person that spoke in favor. But he goes down and he talks about the amendments, so the change would not require an amendment to the zoning ordinance or any other chapter of the town code. Zoning ordinance currently allows public billiard parlors and pool rooms in a general B3 limited industrial, central business, and general industrial zoning districts by conditional use permit. The amendment will allow the use of this deemed appropriate within the town while maintaining regulatory authority through the conditional use permit process and for the protection of the surrounding properties.
We'll make a motion that we approve the amendment of section 6-1 of chapter 6, alcoholic beverages of the Christiansburg Town Code in regards to prohibitions for playing pool where alcoholic beverages are sold or dispensed. The public hearing was held on July 26, 2022.
That's your motion. Okay, we have a motion?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any other discussion?
I just want to say that I'm in support, but I'll abstain from this tonight just because where my husband's the general manager of Bull and Bones, at one point they could take advantage of this change, and so I feel like I need to abstain from this vote tonight.
Very good, I appreciate that. Anything else? Madam Clerk?
Sir. Councilman Bishop,
Aye.
Councilwoman Hicks,
Aye.
Councilwoman Hockett,
Abstain.
Councilman Jenkins,
Aye.
Councilman Showalter,
Aye.
Councilman Wilson,
Aye.
That's 5-0-1. Thank you very much. Recommendation to the Montgomery County Circuit Court for reappointment of Ernie Wade to the Planning Board of Zoning Appeals for a 5-year term, September 1, 2022 through August 31st, 2027.
I'll make a motion that we reappoint Ernie Wade to the Board of Zoning Appeals for a 5-year term, starting September 1st.
I'll second.
The motion is second. Discussion? Ernie, I assume you are willing to serve again?
That's a good question.
Oh, yeah.
He's here, isn't he?
Yeah, he's here. Well, he was here for something else, but anyway.
How many people are appointed to this from the town of Christiansburg? They say only one citizen?
No, it could be up to 5. And
We have
also
3 on the board now.
3 board, and we also did make a change a few years ago that allowed for alternates too, if there were more than the 5 candidates.
Can I have an updated of the list of all
Sure,
this
absolutely.
advisory
So
committees?
we have a motion and a second. Any other discussion?
That was part of the discussion.
Okay.
I'm still talking.
Okay, you want that list tonight, or you?
No, I was
Alright.
gonna make a comment about this. I don't have nothing against you anyway being there, and this is not about you. I was just gonna say that I will really, really like to see for, even for future meetings and stuff like this, to have information about what is coming up as far as this advisory committee boards goes, so we can probably let the people know that there are open positions that are available for this, so maybe we have more participation from the citizens. And nothing against you, Mr. Wade, I appreciate you being part of this. I just would really like more participation from the rest of the citizens, and, you know, where this is democracy, I really like more participation.
Have we advertised for this before?
We have, and we've recently put it back out again.
Good.
So it's under
Mhm.
advertising.
How was it advertised?
We put it out by our website. I think historically they've put a newspaper article, but we did not find that really, brought any attention to the position. So, and word of mouth is the best way as well. Is a very effective way. So, if there are anyone that is interested, please have them contact me.
So this is our recommendation to Montgomery County Circuit Court.
To the Circuit Court.
They make the formal appointment, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Madam Clerk?
Councilman Bishop.
Aye.
Councilwoman Hicks.
Aye.
Councilwoman Hockett.
Aye.
Councilman Jenkins.
Aye.
Councilman Showalter.
Aye.
Councilman Wilson.
Aye.
That's 6-0. Appointment of 2 representatives to the River Valley Passenger Rail Station Authority Board of Directors, 4-year term. We discussed this, this was discussed in the last liaison meeting between the City of Radford, Town of Blacksburg, Montgomery County, and the Town of Christiansburg. And the feeling was that the other localities are planning on appointing their chief administrative officer, which would either be the town manager or the chairman or the county administrator. And most of them are going with either the chair of the board or the mayor of those towns.
So I make a motion that we appoint you, Mayor Barber, and Randy Wingfield to this panel. You've been representing us for
Since it started.
so
Yeah.
I don't see a reason to not have you and Randy as the
Okay,
two people.
thank you.
I'll second that.
Any motion and a second. Any comments?
Just one question, to refresh my memory. Did Randy say that this was was this the appointment that he was willing to serve on but wanted to consider that term in case if he was not the town manager, or if he retired at some point during that term, that we would fill
Well,
that,
if
or
he's
he
no
would continue
longer
in that role?
is in the employment of the town as a town manager, then at that point, there would be an opening and we would fill it
Okay,
ourselves.
okay.
Any other questions? Madam Clerk?
Councilman Bishop.
Aye.
Councilwoman Hicks.
Aye.
Councilwoman Hockett.
Aye.
Councilman Jenkins.
Aye.
Councilman Showalter.
Aye.
Councilman Wilson.
Aye.
That's 6-0. Thank you, and thank you for the appointment. Special events, town contribution threshold. I believe we have been looking at it. I think that the staff recommendation was to go to either $10,000 or $12,000. Yeah. It's up to you all. Do you think 8 is sufficient? Do you think?
I think the $8,000 is just fine for right now. If an organization wants to, have these events and stuff like that, which is great. I appreciate that and everything, but I do think that, there is money that they can make, and there is a lot of opportunities that they can fundraise from this, even with the $8,000 mark. I think if you are having an event and you're charging for tents and for other people to participate, and even to sell beer at these events and stuff like that, and make the revenue from that. We don't get to make any of that money. I think it's just fair to, make them pay the additional amount of money if it's required.
I want to reiterate something I said at the last meeting, which is that if the purpose of this grant is because we want these events here and it's important to us to have them for our citizens in our town or to bring folks downtown, then I would like to see us provide the support that those events need that encourages them to come and have those here versus going to another place where that support is fully funded. So I'm in support of increasing this threshold because I think that the reason we provide that grant support is so that we can support those events because we want them to be here. And I think it's important as our costs are increasing. I mean, it's not that what they're asking for is increasing. People aren't asking for more and more and more to have their events. It's just that the costs of providing that is increasing. And I think that the point has always been to cover those costs of support. So I would be in favor of increasing this.
To a specific figure, to the recommended 10?
To the recommended 10.
Okay. Anyone else?
You'll put that in the form of a motion?
Yeah, I'll make a motion that we increase the threshold of grant support for these events from $8,000 to $10,000.
I'll second that.
Got a motion and a second. Any discussions?
I'll piggyback on what Tanya said. The most important thing is we want events downtown. I think years ago, and Mike, you remember, it was almost a ghost town downtown, and people want stuff to do. And these events, even though we're paying, it's basically a wash. We're paying for our security, our public works, our setup staff, but I think in today's age, you gotta have those streets blocked off with dump trucks, which takes public works down there. You have to have a police presence, and I think that is what the expectation is when people come to these events, that there would be some reasonable safety when they come to them, so I do it.
I think you're right.
And I want to make sure that with this grant is that the money doesn't go to that organization. It's more or less we're paying ourselves back,
Yes.
We're
correct?
just offsetting our expenses.
Just want to make sure.
So the application, it has been changed or reworded, where it says that we are to give them this money? Because on the application, it just sounded like we will give them money.
No, it doesn't.
No, it doesn't say we'll give them money.
It's clear that it's, all we're doing is covering our cost, is what it is. So it's up to that amount. And I could say, when I came in here tonight, I was not gonna consider raising the amount. However, I can be swayed. But
I don't believe that one bit.
I don't want to give any penny away. However, I do support stuff downtown, and I agree the cost of doing business has gone up. But you convinced me.
Well, I do think too that, I have to agree with that as well as the fact of even what Showalter said. The police and just protecting the safety of our people is far more important sometimes than the money.
Yeah, and you take the Wilderness Festivals, the spans that you cover takes a lot of effort. So,
And I think the repricing that Randy did on the pricing of the public vehicles helped quite a bit. I mean,
Agreed.
so,
And
go ahead.
sorry. I was just going to say that it also doesn't mean that it's going to cost us $10,000 in support.
It's
It just
up to.
means that up to, if you're having a really long event and it requires a lot of manpower or womanpower.
But if it costs us
then
$13,000,
that'll be there.
then the event holder is
We'll
responsible
pitch in that.
for
Right.
the other.
Mhm.
Okay. Madam Clerk. Mr. Jenkins, do you have anything? I'm sorry.
No,
You're good,
absolutely
okay. Just trying to give you a word in edgewise, my brother.
not. I'm good on this one.
Okay.
Councilman Bishop, Councilwoman Hicks,
Aye.
Councilwoman Hockett,
Aye.
Councilman Jenkins,
Abstain.
Councilman Showalter,
Aye.
Councilman Wilson,
Aye.
That's another 5-0-0-1. Very good, very good, thank you. Staff reports, Mr. Assistant Town Manager.
Thank you. If it's a pleasure of council, I'd like to go ahead and set a public hearing for for a conditional use permit for a public billiard parlor and pool room. Mr. Frank, in the eventuality that this was approved, he had submitted a conditional use permit. So I'd like to go ahead and schedule that, and that would be for your meeting on September 27th. And that would go to, then it would go to Planning Commission. That's for 3165 North Franklin Street. And the property is designated as commercial on the future land use map of the 2013 Christiansburg Comprehensive Plan.
I lost you at the beginning.
Yeah.
What was it that you said?
So this would be to schedule a public hearing, similar to what we would do on the consent agenda, although because you had not taken action on the change to Chapter 6 alcohol sales, that now allows Mr. Frank to apply for a conditional use permit and for the public billiards to be able to potentially sell alcohol within the same room as pool. And he is proposing that to be at 3165 North Franklin Street. And so this would be scheduling the public hearing for September 27th,
Is that our public
2022.
hearing, or is that before Planning Commission?
That would be your public
So
hearing.
it will come
correct?
before Planning Commission well prior to that.
Yes, I believe that date would be at the end of August, correct?
Okay.
It would be August 29th, I
Okay.
believe.
And I guess he's doing all of the that was for the signs as well, you said? Or that was just for the business itself?
This would just be for the business, correct? Yeah. Any business license or sign permits he would have to get separately.
Okay.
Okay. All right, what else you got?
And then there is also another public hearing for September 27th, which is for a conditional use permit for a contractor's equipment storage yard at 2095 and 2091 Roanoke Street. The property is designated commercial on the future land use map of the comprehensive plan, and this is there was a zoning violation, and the applicant is coming into compliance, and so he has applied for a conditional use permit. So this would be on the same track as the other two that you've scheduled this evening, if you're
Approval would
amenable to
be
that.
up to 2 weeks later at the next meeting.
Correct, right, so your public, correct, your public hearing would be September 27th, and you take action that first meeting in October,
Okay.
if you like. And then the last is scheduling a public hearing for August 23rd, 2022, to consider the corporate boundary line adjustment between the town and the unincorporated portion of the county for the purposes of removing from the town approximately 5.57 acres located on the northeast boundary of the town adjacent to Houchins Road. And this is following up on a note that was in your weekly update. The acreage that it has increased, and I wanted to bring that to council's attention. It was about 3 acres or so. They are now proposing 5.57 acres based on a survey that was done, and that was caught by our town manager.
Is this going to Planning Commission?
So this would be a public hearing for town council. So that would come directly to town council. We would have a staff report with the criteria that you all agreed upon. So it would be directly to town council as a boundary line adjustment, which would not go to
Well, that was
planning
for
commission.
3 acres and something. Now the thing has even changed, and for
Well, it didn't go to the Planning
line
Commission, it didn't go to the
adjustment, it should
Planning
have
Commission for the
gone
first
to
time.
Planning Commission
It should
anyhow.
not. They do not deal in those issues. I think Ben explained that to you tonight. Those type of issues are not subject to the Planning Commission. They are property use, zoning, and everything else. Is that
It's a
correct?
land
Am I correct? Okay, thank you. All right.
And we would have the agreed upon criteria, that you all agreed upon with any boundary line adjustment. We would have that available as a staff report prior to the public hearing.
Okay, thank you. Those 3 public hearings?
Yes,
Okay.
and that's all I have, sir.
Very good. Town attorney,
Nothing to report. Thank you, Mayor.
thank you. Town staff, Val, anyone else here? Andrew? No, you've already done yours.
Yeah, I've already said it.
Very good, thank you. Council reports, Mr. Showalter.
Oh, okay. Just a little bit from the rec commission. Youth programs, the participation is getting somewhat back to pre-COVID levels. I think with the other programs, they're creeping up a lot more slower, like the adult programs, which is good to hear. One of the things that really stood out to me is Mr. Epperly mentioned, and it's something you sort of take for granted for years, is these Boy Scout, Eagle Scouts. Almost every year we have a program going on where a scout is building a shelter for the town, or working in the cemetery, or doing some project. And of course, the town assists somewhat in either providing material, but they basically put in all the labor and get the project done. But currently, and I can't get into my email because I wanted Brad to send those names to us, so I'll bring them back next time. But there's currently 3 projects going on, and one is out at the park, a shelter, which is going to save us in the future of building a shelter on our own, and more importantly, it aids this young scout in getting the ultimate prize, right, Mike?
Yes, sir.
The,
Correct.
Eagle Scout.
Yes, sir.
But it's significant to notice that every year we always have, and this year having 3, which is a lot, but having these young men volunteer basically to do these projects on our citizens' behalf. And I mean, the Eagle Scout Award says it all, but it's impressive that they look to us in the town of Christiansburg to partner with us to do projects for our citizens.
Courtney, I'll segue on that, is that, we are fortunate now over the last several years to have 3 very, very, very active, 2 very, very active Boy Scout troops working in town, and that's, you've seen scouting take off and you see the results of it, so I appreciate you bringing that up. And one thing that I'll remind Planning Commission and Town Council, with the youth activity sports being up, the Kiwanis Club has a scholarship agreement with the Parks and Recreation. So if you have a town resident child that cannot afford Sandlot sports participation, all Brett has to do is let the Kiwanis Club know, and we'll see that child or those children get to play.
And it's for naught, but I'm glad Mike brought it up. 2 of these scouts are legacies, meaning that their brothers did a project for us. So that says a lot about, it's an individual project, but that says a lot about, the family and their values that they'll invest in our town. And so it's appreciated. I'll get those names for you. I feel terrible I don't have them.
Okay, very good. Mr. Bishop.
I don't have a thing, Mayor.
Okay. Ms. Hicks.
Those shelters are really nice, and the way they go and put the flags of the cemeteries is definitely a wonderful, wonderful thing to see.
Yeah, I think one of those Eagle Scouts did something down at Depot Park.
Yeah.
There's a couple things they've done. Yeah,
We were just having pizza the other day.
I think that's one of the projects that was going on this year.
There's something else at Depot, and then I know that the skateboard park, the pavilion built down there, was built by an Eagle Scout out of Blacksburg.
Wait till you see the one they're building out at the new park. Randy and I looked at it a couple weeks ago. It's
Very good. Well, we need to be more diligent with our recognition of these scouts, so we need to get them together and do something, even if it's, I'd love to bring them here, but if we can't, then, maybe we can erect a sign for their project. I don't know whether they have a sign up, I don't know, but I mean, that's
They
something
typically
maybe
do.
we could do.
Yeah,
I was gonna
they
give,
do typically, I think that is part of the project, is to have that sign,
acknowledgement.
correct, and acknowledgement.
I was
plaque.
gonna give this job to Randy, but since you're here,
Okay.
would you please look into and see if there is a way we can talk to Rose Peters owners or something, and see if there is a possibility later on to build maybe a partnership with the town of Christiansburg to build a unity bridge between Depot Park and Rose Peter Park, or something like that. I would really like to have an update about that, because I think it's history that's very important to our town, and I think Rose Peter Park It's a big part of our town right now in Depot Park, so.
I will say
Mayor, are you
this,
still on that?
I am on that board of directors. We had a meeting last night and discussed this. There's some issues that have to be worked out, financial issues that have to be worked out by the Rosa Peters and the trust company, the National Bank of Blacksburg, that administers their trust, before we can even proceed further with it. They still want to do it. My understanding and my feeling is that we, as a town, still want to do it. But I have recommended to them that, hey, if you're going to do this, you need to go in and there's some improvements you need to make right now, which is pavement of the road, pavement of the parking lot. I mean, spend capital money that you have in order to get it up to a presentable standard. And it's like, I don't think the town would look for it if we merge, and then all of a sudden we have to pave the driveways and the parking lots. And I think they'd even talked about building another, not a gazebo, but another shelter. So that was on the board discussion last night, and we probably will meet again in another month. There were some tasks handed out to the president of the board and the treasurer of the board. So I don't think you need to assign that to Mr. Warren. If you don't mind, I'll take it from here with Mr. Wingfield and Mr. Warren and I as the time comes.
Now, Mike, we opened this door in 2012.
Somewhere along that line.
So it's been out there where we would like to see some sort of partnership between the town and Rosa Peters Park.
Well, and I think
Who is requesting this parking lots to be done and everything? I mean, if you
I am,
have
as
a
a board of
connection,
directors.
but if you have a connection between Depot Park and you have a Rose Peters Park, you can walk there. There is no driving that you need to do.
Have you been into that Rosa Peterson?
Oh my gosh, yes.
Seen
I
the
went
condition of the
to
road going up to the
Unity
meeting hall?
thing and everything
Yeah,
else. I
that's
go
what
over
I
there to the
suggested they
pool.
needed to do, is fix those things, not build something to connect the two. It's capital improvements that will make the property more.
Well, now
And
that's
then-
where I don't agree. Do they agree on us making the decisions for them? Because that's their private property.
It's a fence point right now,
And so
it's
I
still
don't know.
theirs, and we don't know that we'll ever reach an agreement. I'll be very honest with you.
Well, but if we have that attitude that we're wanting them to do these things, no wonder they're gonna say no.
They have the money to do that, without question. The problem that we had starting in 2012 and until about, I'm gonna say 2017, 2018, was that board, which I was not on at the time, was immensely against any type of merger. But as the board and the board got older and they saw the work that was involved in it, then they brought it back to the table, and that's what we're trying to work out, the legal issues that would face the playground. If it ever reverts away from a playground, then that entire trust fund, the administrators are gonna have to go back and find the descendants of the original members of that family for 100 years. So I'm quite aware of the situations, and we are encouraging and we want to do that. But I'm not the only one on that board that said you need to fix this. There were 3 other board members that
Since
said.
it is a park, does he actually have to pay taxes? Can we waive the taxes if there are any taxes involved with the yearly?
I don't know about the tax structure on it all. All I know is the operations of it. I don't know whether it's taxed or not. It probably.
I know that I have used it with my family. I know I have gone there. I know it's a very nice facility. It's a well-cleaned pool. It's a well-maintained park. I actually don't see any problems with the park the way it is today.
That's
And I
up,
think
that's up
it's-
to you.
And I think it's really nice that they open it for the public. As a matter of fact, it's open to anybody that wants to go there.
That's
and
correct.
use it.
Always, it has been for several years.
And And I just think I encourage even the town of Christiansburg citizens to go and visit them, because it's a really, really well-maintained place.
That's part of the capital improvements they're gonna do. They're gonna do some, upgrade some signage, they're gonna have their hours. The downside to it all is they don't operate that long during the summer. I mean, they close this coming Sunday. They operate when school is out, and they go back, they open when school is out, they go back when when school goes in session, they close. So they're trying to get some more branding, some more signage, and some more things and some more improvements to it. So, to the visible eye, there may not be, but to those of us that have spent 10 years, 12 years on that board, there are some things that should be fixed before they ever approach us about taking over. And I'll move it on from there.
I would really like to have an update from them, and if it's brought up by you, and not just saying that they need to fix their parking lot and everything else.
Ms. Hicks, until it comes from their board to us,
That's
you
what
just
my-
got the update you're gonna get.
Okay.
It is private property.
Mr. Hockett, Ms. Hockett.
You all messed up, aren't you?
Well, sometimes I get PO'd and sometimes I don't.
Just one update. I was remiss in mentioning this during the committee reports, but the Bikeway Walkway Committee did meet last week, and one item I just wanted to bring from that meeting to put on your radar is the fact that the bike share company, the company that supplies the bike share, you probably have seen this in the news or noticed that the bikes have been
They're out,
missing. So we have talked about that. I know it's on the radar. A lot of citizens really enjoy that service, and so just when we thought, oh, we're gonna have things getting repaired, we're gonna have so many bikes, then the company declares bankruptcy. So it's just been very interesting watching that unfold. In some places they've picked up their bikes and have said nothing, and in other places they've left them with no service and they're just scattered all around cities. And so looking for other options, and that will continue to be a discussion for the committee. But in case you weren't aware, they're not there, and it's not from the town's doing. It's not our decision, unfortunately. That's just what we're sort of dealt at the moment. So.
At the MPO meeting this past week, I made the offer, they were discussing, as part of that Huckleberry Trail, whole 9 yards, they were discussing those bikes and what are they gonna do with them. So I suggested that they contact Randy or Andrew, and we have that row furniture building that we have space so we can lease out very cheaply. And I expressed to them, if you wanna talk to him about getting all the bikes so we'll have them all in one spot, then they may pursue that or not.
I know.
They're still at the mall.
Yeah,
Yeah,
in California.
But the batteries are dead, they can't move them.
Right.
You have to cut the locks,
So-
and they're 70 pounds apiece.
Doing some research, which is something we'll talk about in the committee meetings, but it's just been interesting because it sounds like there might be opportunities to use the bikes that are left with a new provider, but I don't know how that's gonna work. I'm not even saying that's an
I
option.
don't think they figured out how to charge them.
Right, it's very chaotic right now for them to just be left for, not working.
And
And
the president wants us
Is
to
there
all
a-
buy electric cars. God.
I know years ago, we used to pay for the service, right, through a grant or something like that. What was it? It was quite a bit. What was the amount, like $5,000?
We have not paid for the last couple of years, and I'm
But
not
it
sure
used
the
to be,
exact
what
amount.
was it?
I'd have to research that. and
They did
find
some,
out.
that company got some federal grant money.
There was quite a bit of grant
to-
money, and
to- to do this,
right,
and
and
I-
as a regional committee, that's one thing that we are, we are looking into as well, as just, because we have received grant money that,
And I mean,
you
so
know.
you have grant money right now, and what does that
We do not
entail?
have grant money.
Oh, you don't.
Correct.
So one of the things that I guess, one of the suggestions that I have would be, since you are part of the Bikeway committee and stuff, that maybe I am okay to even maybe we put some money out from the budget, like $2,000 a year, to give out some bikes to citizens. Maybe if they apply through a process like, hey, I required a bike to get to work, or something like that, to maybe help some people get off their feet and get to work back and forth. So, I'm okay with giving out bikes. I know my son got his bike stolen the other day, so that maybe will keep somebody from stealing somebody else's bike.
Okay. It was mentioned at the Rec Commission what Tony is talking about, and I think it's in a gray area. All the communities are waiting to see what's going to happen.
Nobody
with
across
this
the state
program.
knows what's going on with them.
And, for somebody who's I was impressed with the creeper, and if you're ever at the beach, you can rent a bike. I just mentioned it to Brad that because there are a lot of students and employees in Blacksburg and Christiansburg who would take those bikes, surprisingly more than you thought. And I've always meant to do it. And
When you live over there now, you don't have any excuse.
But they are assisted bikes, meaning that it helps you get up the hills and things like that. But I said, you know, it probably would be worth it to talk with Blacksburg and Montgomery County to see if, you know, you could reach out to the organizations that have the creeper bicycles down there, or anybody that we might want to start a program here where kids can come into the new park and rent a bike, or a parent can, and get them out on that trail. But it's all new. And I think everything's at a standstill till this company or
Correct,
federal
yeah,
courts decide what's going on there.
Correct, right, and it is a regional group, so we are working together on that, and still, Blacksburg Transit has been, has administered the program for us, so they're kind of working through all of those details. And it would be a matter of, it's a shame because our hubs the Christiansburg hubs were getting a lot of usage, towards the end there. So, but we do think that it's viable to have some solution, and that's a good idea to look at the Creeper Trail and look at other, other options. There were a lot of different, there's a lot of different providers out there, and but it is a bit of a dynamic business, and it's always changing, so we're having to watch that. And a lot of business do require the scooters as well, which may be something that comes back to council at some point. But
Oh my
yeah,
gosh,
but
those
that's
scooters, they run
but
everywhere.
right. But
So,
you know,
is there still those second chance? I wish I knew these organizations. It's just over a decade. We had organizations.
the
like
Bike Kitchen that works
Bike
out of the
Kitchen,
Habitat for
things- those are
Humanity,
still
as far as I
operating, right?
understand,
Yeah.
they're still operating.
There are some people still.
Correct.
Very good. Mr. Wilson,
Nothing.
Mr. Jenkins,
Nothing, sir.
There is a bike club in Christiansburg.
okay.
Cool.
Very good. Is there any other business to come before council? We are adjourned. Thank you.